Hey everybody, it's Tyler Austin from Gun Gear Strategic. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing to either my player or my Patreon channel for exclusive content, as well as early access to my free content like this. With that being said, in this video, I'm going to be going over how you can easily parallel zero your IR laser, or your Viz laser for that matter. People want to make parallel zeros into this whole complicated process, and they'll say it takes you hours to do it, and it's this massive pain in the ass. In reality, it's actually not that hard, and in fact, you can do the majority of it, if not the overwhelming majority of it, without even firing a shot, and I'm going to show you how to do that here. There's actually two different methods of doing this that work quite well, and I'm going to show you both. All right, so the first example, or the first method I'm going to show you is very simple. So I'm going to be using a 25-yard zero as an example for the laser. That's a very common zeroing distance anyways, and it's my personal favorite because of the holdovers and hold-unders it gives me at different distances. But again, it's a very common zero distance anyways because it's just easy to zero a laser at that for a variety of reasons. Regardless, so what you're going to do is you're going to take a target and you're going to set it out at 25 yards. This works better if you have some sort of bore sight or a mantis, something along those lines, but you don't need it, and I'll show you how to do it without that. So what you're going to do is you're going to set a target again out at 25 yards. Now, if we use this piece of blue Scotch tape as our target, what I want to do is get my laser and put it on the center of my target. In this case, I'm using this blue Scotch tape. So this is where my IR laser is, or my Viz laser if you're using your Viz laser to zero. Now, using my bore sight, I want to eventually zero this thing, so that way my bore sight, or my mantis, whatever you're using, is going to be hitting right around here. Now, people think, and people will lead you to believe, that the vertical offset, the horizontal offset on your IR or your visible laser, in this case I'm using a PEC 15 for an example, but it's going to be roughly the same with any other aiming laser device other than maybe a Rate X. People will have you believe that the horizontal offset is huge. You'll hear ridiculous things like, oh, you have to put the laser on someone's shoulder in order to hit them center mass. Your horizontal offset from your laser to your bore is not this big, right? It's about that big. It's roughly 3/4 of an inch, give or take. So it's not that big. It's not that large. So again, if I put my laser right here, my bore sight should be hitting roughly here. Again, the vertical difference shouldn't be that much because that's how we're zeroing. We're zeroing at 25 yards. So they should be hitting along the same vertical axis. Just the only difference, if we're using a parallel zero, is going to be the horizontal axis. So that's where roughly your laser should be hitting. Now, the key here is after you get done with that, to ensure that you actually have a parallel zero and not a converging zero, take your target and put it out to 50 yards. Now, if you put your target out at 50 yards, and let's say your red dot at 25 yards was here, just using this as an example, right? So your red dot was right here, your laser is right here, so it's slightly to the right of your dot, but you push this out at 50 yards, and your laser is now over here relative to your dot. So now it's pushing left. Now you know the laser is converging and you have to push the laser right at this point. Then again, so if it's the same, right, so your horizontal offset is the same at 50 yards, push it out to 100 yards, and again, make sure it's not pushing to the left. At distance, if the horizontal offset between your red dot and your laser is staying relatively the same, then you know you have a parallel zero. And then what you can do is go to the range and just simply confirm it. and make any micro adjustments you need to make. And if you do this, you're going to be really damn close, so you should only have to make a few adjustments. It shouldn't even take you more than really like half a mag to make any adjustments you need to make and confirm your zero. So that's method one. Now, if you don't have a bore sight or a mantis system, what you can do is simply just use your red dot. So again, for example, let's say my laser is here, that's where I want my laser, and I know that, for example, for me, I know at 25 yards, I'm with my particular offset on my gun, I'm going to be in my zero. I zero with a 50-yard zero. I know my my point of aim, point of impact difference with my red dot's gonna be roughly 3 inches. So this is more like 2 inches, but I'll just use it. So if my red dot's here, I'm going to line up my laser so that way it's just on the right-hand edge of where my dot is, right? So you can see this rough offset. And then again, I'm going to do the same exact thing as I did with the bore sight. I'm just going to push the target out to further and further distances and make sure that this dot, or I'm sorry, the laser isn't traveling to the left, okay? So that is how, that's the first method of how you can easily and quickly parallel zero your IR/visible laser. Now the second method's a little bit different and it works quite well. However, there are some problems with it, and I should say problems, but it's going to require a little bit more work on your end to particularly figure out what your holdovers or hold unders are going to be at different ranges. But this is going to be something I'm going to call an infinite zero, an infinite parallel zero, or technically it's actually going to be a converging zero. So what you're going to do is you're going to set a target or pick an aiming point that is rather far away. So let's say you're going to have to do this at night. Obviously, you'd have to do this at night if you're doing this with your IR laser anyways. But if you want to use your Viz laser to do this, you're going to have to do it at night in order to actually see the laser. But what you're going to do is you're going to set a target out, or again, just pick a point of aim that is really far away. Something like 300, 400, or even like maybe 500 yards away. And what you're going to do is if you're using a red dot, so let's just say you're aiming at a target 500 yards away and your red dot on whatever you're aiming at, your target, is right there. That's where, that's your red dot at the target 500 yards away. What you're going to do is you're just going to bring your laser and zero your laser and basically slave it to that, okay? Now what this is going to do is it's basically going to make it a converging zero. However, the convergence happens at a really far distance. So it's, again, 300, 400, 500 yards away, probably quite a bit farther than you would engage under night vision with a laser anyways. So it technically is converging, but it converges at, let's just say 400 yards. It's going to be a parallel zero out to 400, right? So it's going to really act as a parallel zero at the distances you're more than likely going to be engaging at with your under night vision with your IR laser, and certainly with a visible laser. So once you do that though, what you're going to have to do is next time you go to the range is you're going to have to figure out what your holdovers and hold unders are going to be at different ranges. So at near distances, it's going to be more or less what your height over bore for the laser is going to be, obviously. But once you start pushing to 50 yards, 100 yards, you're going to have to see what your holdovers and hold unders are going to be like, because you don't really know, depending on, again, how far you set the target, what your height over bore, your red dot is. So it's one of those things that's going to take some work on your end to ensure that you know what your holdovers and hold unders are going to be at range if you decide to do this. This is an easy way to do it, assuming you actually have the ability to push out a target or see something at that kind of range. It's an easy way to do it, but again, it just requires more work on your part to ensure that you know what your holdovers are going to be. If you zero at a particular range, again, assuming you know what your height over bore is for the laser, at 25 yards, I already know what my holdovers are going to be at different distances. But using this method, that's something you're going to have to figure out on your own at the range. So I hope you found this helpful and informative. Hopefully I made your life a lot easier when zeroing your IR laser illuminator. Again, parallel zeros don't have to be hard. They don't have to take you 2 hours to do and a whole bunch of ammo. That's ridiculous. It can be done pretty easily with the methods I showed you. Again, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. Please like and subscribe if you did. I'm Tyler Austin from Gungear Strategic. Thank you so much for watching.